understand? I could have had class. I could have been a contender.
Hulk, go smash.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
Here's Johnny.
Look, 21 gigawatts!
Hey, motherfucker.
You never go ass to mouth.
Now what is so damn funny?
And here we go.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight.
Force will be with you. Always.
But the truth! You can't handle the truth! Showtime, everybody! Showtime!
What's up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome to episode number 22 of the Movie Club podcast. This is the January 2016 edition, and we're going to talk about winter films. The old wintry months are ahead of us and kind of during right now. Just had some snowfall, and we're in the snow mood, so we figured we'd pick 4 movies that were based off of snow in some capacity. Edward Scissorhands, Groundhog Day, Frozen, and Snowpiercer. We're going to talk about them one by one. But first, I need to introduce to you the panel that's going to be talking. I am your host, Tony Mango, and joining me on this episode, I got a bunch of C's, and I don't mean that in a derogatory kind of way. I've got Chris Cheng.
Hello.
Chris Dace.
Hey, hey.
And Caroline Oliveira.
Hello.
So, as I mentioned before, we're going to start off with the 1990 film Edward Scissorhands. That was directed by Tim Burton, written by Tim Burton and Caroline Thompson. And holy hell, is this a Tim Burton movie? Very first note that I have written down is just such a Tim Burton movie. So first off, to just give you an impression of how good or bad this movie is, our Rotten Tomatoes score is 89% for the tomato meter of the critics and 91% for the audience score. Audience a little bit higher than that, but basically around the same. What were your first impressions when you saw Edward Scissorhands, and was it for this, or did you guys had seen it before? Dace, I'm going to start with you.
When I first saw this movie, it was, probably around like 95, 96 when I was still a kid, and it was terrifying. Between him and Vincent Price, and it's a Tim Burton film, so of course it's scary just to begin with. But all the darkness and all that stuff, it definitely caught me off guard as a kid.
Cheng, what about you?
When I first saw it as a kid, I didn't really pick up on all the weird Tim Burton things. I just saw it as watch this adorable monster kid fumble his way through this family. But then I watched it years later, and I was just like, I'm totally with the neighbors and the community that hates Edward.
Caroline, what's your first impression of the movie?
Well, I loved the movie. When I was growing up, I watched it so many times because I had so many medical problems growing up. I was always the different one in my family and my friends. So when I saw Edward Scissorhands, I was like, oh my god, it's like me, but not really, but kind of like me. I love this movie.
Just to clarify, your medical problems weren't that you had scissors for hands, right?
Yeah. Oh, you had the hands
for
are the problem.
feet, but you know.
It's I had plungers. So, first question that I have for everybody. Do they ever tell you what his age is supposed to be?
Johnny Depp. That's what I assume. He's aged Johnny Depp.
He's aged Johnny Depp. But, is he supposed to be, 17 or something?
I assume, because it has to match up to Winona Ryder's age. So she was, 17, 18.
She's a senior in high school. They mentioned that.
Okay, yeah.
So he's got to be roughly her age, but I mean, he could be a couple of years older or whatever like that. But technically, he's kind of only a couple of years old, right? Because
he's only 3.
Yeah,
so in Robot Boy terms, I guess.
Dog years, kind of.
Because it seemed the guy built them. I guess he had prototypes and got to the final model, but before the hand ceremony, he just kind of upped and died. So,
which that's another question here is. You didn't give the thing hands, but you gave him scissors for hands. And instead of, you just cut that step and we're I think I want to check out the scissors instead. But you also spent the time to read poetry to him, and it's give him hands.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
He needed to be different. He needed to be scary on the outside.
Why?
Why?
Because then the movie would make sense.
I know, but he just I forgot who said it. It's the most Tim Burton thing. That's exactly what Tim Burton thinks the world is. It's you're not ready yet. You need scissors for hands. But
Yeah.
his priority for like doing it is really messed up because it's like I get if the world was like a post-apocalyptic future where like scissors for hands is like useful,
Right.
but it's like the suburban community was not going to come after them, so he didn't need weapons.
Edward Scissorhands Fury Road or something. But like we're also talking about an inventor that started out making cookies.
Oh yeah, that's right. I totally like skipped that fact.
He's just like he's making cookies one day, some sugar cookies, and instead of thinking, maybe I'll switch it up and do chocolate chip, he's just kind of like, maybe I'll make a real boy. Like I'll go Pinocchio mode.
Is that like a chance most bakers do? Like, could that happen? Can some baker decide like I'm gonna make life, like real life?
I don't know. I can't even make cupcakes. If I was trying to make a person, I'd really fuck it up.
You forget the hands.
I'd turn out with Edward normal hands, and he would still be as much of a monster. I had a whole bunch of questions this time watching it. I mean, I've owned the movie for years, and I've seen it a couple different times and stuff. But this time, I already knew the whole story. I already knew how it ended and all that. And I was just looking for nuances. And another question I had was, what does he eat the whole time he's alone?
I don't think he eats, really.
Yeah.
Well, he eats in the movie.
Yeah, I think because he's trying it.
Yeah, but I don't think he needs to eat.
Like, does he have inside parts? Like, I mean, does he have a cookie for a heart? Because it was a heart cookie that made him have, like, the inspiration. Is he made out of cookies?
Is that the secret to, like, eternal life? Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, we should eat some more cookies.
I don't know. Vincent Price is kind of mysterious at that point, so...
Yeah, he builds a machine to crack eggs and somehow comes out with a kid. And how does he use the bathroom, too? That's another thing.
I don't think he has genitals.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's not a full real boy, which is, like, what proves my point later about my argument about the town kind of turning against him.
So if he doesn't have any genitals, then that really sucks for Kim.
Again, it's just for our own safety. That's why Jim is, like, the unsung hero.
Yeah, this does come off as a real Tim Burton movie. I mean, you got the creative person. He's, an artistic kind of thing with frayed black hair, and he's out of place in a pastel town and all that other kind of stuff. It's just like Tim Burton's really going for the teenage writing this in my journal type of story, isn't he?
It's a totally like 80s thing too, because the hairstyle and everything kind of reminds me of Boy George. And this is like 90s, like right as the 90s was like starting.
Yeah,
so
1990.
So just the fact that like a lot of probably the culture clash between gothic and like suburban preppy, like valley, I guess, and like jocks, like it just like this hodgepodge of countercultures. And,
Dace, what was your first impression when you looked at like the neighborhood? You get the slutty neighbor, the gossipy housewives. Everybody's got these like pink homes and stuff.
It felt like the Stepford sisters, or the Stepford
Wives.
Stepford Cuckoos.
It was just very like, here's this dark, mysterious mountain up here where Vincent Price is hiding out with his creation, and then down here's the quote unquote perfect life, and then they mix the two, and that's when Frankenstein gets fucking chased out of town.
Yeah, and nobody in town ever goes, I wonder what's up with that mansion. Joyce is kind of like, oh, there's that mansion up there that nobody goes to.
I'm pretty sure there's a zoning thing where it's like you have a housing development, and then up on the hills like this like gloomy ass mansion castle.
Caroline, your thoughts on the town itself? I mean, I can't imagine that was the type of thing that you were like, oh, I want to live there.
Oh God, no! Like that would be the opposite. Like take me to the castle anytime, not that town. I mean, it's like for a while when I was really young and I watched this movie, I thought that the United States was like that. I was like, oh my God, is that how it is? Because it's so different from Brazil, right?
Were you disappointed when you first came here?
Well, by then I watched so many other movies. I knew it wasn't really like that. It was more like Mad Max, New York City. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was... I never really thought too much, to be honest. I never really thought too much about the city itself. Like, I always, like, thought about the neighbors the most. The slutty neighbor was, like, my favorite because she kind of reminds me of my aunt a lot.
Whoa.
Not that my aunt's slutty. It's just, like, the way she dresses. Like, just like my aunt.
Your aunt really needs to answer the question of whether or not Edward has genitals.
She'll probably send you to church if you ask her that. She's a very complex character.
Damn those TV programs. Note that I had written down here that I didn't notice until this time that I watched it, and it was one of the things that I found one of the funniest parts about the movie. Alan Arkin's character is so oblivious to everything that's going on. Like, I mean, the very first scene we see him in, she's already, his wife, I can't remember her name, Peg.
Peg.
She's already brought Edward into the family, and they're just eating dinner, and he's just kind of like, so Ed, what's up? Like, it's a consistent running joke throughout the whole movie that, like, Edward runs away at the end, and it's just like, hey, where's Ed going? All right, I guess I'll get him. So, teenagers, huh? Yeah, kind of fucked up, right? Here, have some lemonade. I loved his character. He's one of my favorite parts of the movie. But out of all the people that are side characters, we have a wide range of stuff. Cheng, you're talking about you identify with Jim the most because you identify with his...
Not the most, but I gotta get his, like, conviction and his, like...
You just support his point of view?
Up until a certain point, you know, then there's just like, no, like, then he became, like, classic bad boy. You know, like, he kind of became too much of a bad boy.
Which is weird to think Anthony Michael Hall being the tough jock.
Yeah, just like 5 years prior, he was like the nerd guy in Breakfast Club, or 6 years prior, you know what I mean? So it's just like, what?
Steroids.
This guy. All it takes is like one leather jacket. Look at him now.
If he would have known that in high school, man, he wouldn't have been at that detention.
Yeah. But yeah, I get to a point where, like, he's really taken an interest because anyone you know brings over, like, a creature and is totally fine with it. Except for, like, Kim. She's, like, the reasonable, too. Like, what? Until she falls in love. And then it's, like, Jim's responsibility to, like, wake them up and be like, look at you. What the hell's going on? Right? Like, because for all we know, this monster cast a spell on everyone. You know? Like, he's mind controlling everybody. You know?
So that mind control scissors.
We don't know. I mean, come on. It's like, you can't, there's nothing else to base this on.
That's true. Dace, who stands out to you as somebody that you would identify the most with? Is it Edward or is it somebody else?
In that town, probably the neighbor that just minded their own business and went inside the house.
The ones that at the end, when Jim dies, they're just kind of like, oh, sucks to be Jim. All right, you guys want to have barbecue or something?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd be like, yeah, that's their problem. I'm going to go back inside, play some video games.
So basically all the men in the town.
Yeah, I wouldn't care. But like, all right, he's got knives right hand. So what? Just don't touch me.
Caroline, I'm assuming you're identifying the most with Edward.
Yes, absolutely. Oh.
I think I identify the most with Kim's brother, who's just like, how sharp are those knives? That's kind of cool. Can I bring you to show and tell? Let's see here. A couple other notes that I had down. Funny line that I thought was one of my favorite parts of the movie. I can't eat that. It's not sanitary. He used his hands when he's cutting it with the scissors. I thought it was really funny. Actually, I had another question that was going on here. If Alan Arkin staples fake snow to the roof, why does Winona Ryder say that it's never snowed there before? How would they have any, like, idea of what the fake snow is?
Well, they must have TV to know
Yeah.
what snow is.
It doesn't snow in Florida, but Disney has like this like foamy thing that they throw out in the sky, and everybody's like, snow.
So it was supposed to be implying that it just had never snowed in that town before.
Yeah.
I always took it as that it never snowed, period, and this was like the
snow
tale
gets
of how
created.
snow became kind of a thing.
Oh,
I could be
think it's
totally
just the
wrong.
town.
That's the
I
thing.
just think it's like because it's California.
Yeah.
I just think that's why.
See, I pictured that it was. I didn't even think it was California. I thought it was like Ohio or something, like some random ass town. You know, that would
I feel
explain a hell of a lot more than my point of view.
If it was Ohio, like, those people wouldn't look as posh. They would be way more
That's true.
farmery. You know what I mean? The fact they looked very preppy was like the dead giveaway for me that it was like the West Coast.
Well, we know it's not Fargo.
Right. It ain't Fargo.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, oh, your hands, you know. Dace, I noticed specifically your snowman is in this movie.
He is, and that's why he's a special guest in a lot of our videos we shoot for.
When the old man asks if they caught him yet, just a panning shot, and I'm just like, is that the same snowman that Dace has?
Yeah, it's the menacing snowman. That's why there's a backstory there.
So what are some other things that stand out to you guys about this movie? Any positives or negatives? Some favorite scenes, some least favorite scenes?
I guess this, for a Tim Burton movie, is a lot of like mature themes going on. You know, like there's a lot of like essential, like kind of rape claims, like violence. Like that doesn't happen in a lot of Tim Burton movies.
There's probably some subtext in A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
He did do Sweeney Todd too. That was very.
Yeah, that was way later, and that wasn't meant for a kids movie. Like this movie somehow became like a family movie.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he probably raped those kids. I don't know.
Well, yeah, his remake was crazier, but yeah, it's very Tim Burton-y and gothic. And like the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, a lot of kids like saw this movie, and I'm like, whoa, who's the target demographic for this when it was coming out?
Yeah, because it seems like it would be a standard PG-13 type of movie. It's got a horror kind of twist to it, but it's not a horror film. I don't know. It's weird. Like you can't really place it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It just and it's like I saw a lot of this movie in rental stores, just like family movies. That I'm like, is this the movie you introduce like a lot of adult concepts to your kids? Where it's like, all right, like we're gonna watch this movie, then we're gonna have a talk.
So, what was Kim talking about when she said you can't always get Jim to stop whatever he wants to stop and all that? Does anybody know, kids? Raise your hand.
What did Jim? Well, Jim's fault was getting drunk at the end. If he just didn't get drunk, that'd be kind of fine.
But did you guys really like catch on all that when you first watched the movie when you were a child?
No,
because I really didn't. Like even when he dies at the end, and I mean when the jock dies at the end, and it's like now I watched it, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of like. But that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the Disney movies nowadays too. Like some of them are really scary and have like really like dramatic things that kids might be sensitive to. But as a child, I didn't really get all that. It's just like, that character is evil. He died. Good.
I think it's like a decade thing because this is still off that like 80s kids movies versus like 2000s kids movie. There's a very big difference in storytelling and like even just like having adult themes like this just like there. Apparently it's like if you think about it, if Tim Burton really wanted to make this a horror movie, he could. All the elements are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this really could. Like if they wanted to do a remake and just do this purely on like the thriller kind of side, that would work.
Or like at the end, where like it's calm at the beginning, but at the end, his freak out is way worse.
You don't just have to cut out some scenes where he cuts the dog's hair and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that scene.
No, you could still have like the charming, like he's a misunderstood creature, but then at the end, it's just like, but he's still a creature, and like have him like really start murdering people.
They're like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I got fucking cookies for heart."
I would kill if I woke up and was like, "What the hell?" Like I would just strangle things, Like when
I don't have any genitals.
Oh man, like that's it. Like you can't eat, you can't use the bathroom. Man, well, it's life after that.
Continually cutting your face. Ugh. Dace, anything stands out to you?
I'm not like a big fan of Tim Burton films, and still wasn't a fan of this one. Batman's pretty much it, and it's only like that one because it's Batman. So, yeah, I don't like Tim Burton.
I'm gonna stick with you then. If you gave this a 0 to 10, what's your score?
I'll give it a 5. I mean, I did watch it a couple times as a kid, but again, I'm not a big fan of Tim Burton.
Caroline, what's your 0 to 10?
I'll give it a 7. I feel like to me, interestingly enough, I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, believe it or not, but this one's definitely one of my favorite films he's ever done. So, and all the sentimental value, so a 7.
And Cheng, what about you?
Like a 6. I'm an okay Tim Burton fan. Like I watched almost all things, and I get like his themes between his films. It's always about misunderstood things, like either between Pee-wee, Batman, like Edward, or Nightmare Before Christmas is always a theme of just like misunderstood or
how dark everything is.
Yeah, how dark. And it's like you have fun in it. You could do something with it. But for me, like it's always just like I agree at this situation. The town is kind of right. Like that's just why I'm like, yeah, they're kind of right after a while. Except for the whole like neighbor, like the MILF neighbor that just kind of goes like boy crazy.
Yeah, she's really probably the creepiest character out of the whole bunch.
And she's the one who starts the chain of events, really.
Yeah.
And she gets, like, no backlash.
No, she's, like, praised at the end. Actually, no, the creepier person is that really religious woman.
Yeah.
She's just sitting there playing that organ. She's like, that's all you do all day? What the hell? Fucking weirdo. So, those are our thoughts on Edward Scissorhands. If you're watching this on YouTube, we've got 4 parts that you just got to click on to go to the next sections. If you're on iTunes and Stitcher, then you don't have to do anything because we'll be right back. But we're going to continue on in part 2 with Groundhog Day. So we'll see you there.